Welcome in to another emergency podcast, the second of this month for the DNVR Avalanche squad, as the Avs signed Mackenzie Blackwood to a 5-year, $5.25 million AAV extension. Whether you like it or not, this solves the goaltending position for the foreseeable future for the Colorado Avalanche. First thoughts, boys, as we have AJ, E, and Rudo coming to you live in normal fashion, I suppose.
Yeah, you can tell that we're all making this up as we go, and we all had other stuff going on today because we're all just nothing's worked. But I do think it's I mean, obviously there's a little bit of sticker shock, and the timing of it is strange, and it also shouldn't come as an enormous surprise given what Chris McFarland said when they acquired him, and he said, "I'd be lying if I said if I was trading for him for 4 months of hockey." That told you right there that they had plans in keeping him beyond this season. But for them to be like, all right, 4 games, we're good, do it. And, and obviously, like, it's not just how the 4 games have gone with Blackwood. That helps. We know he's not going to put up a .930 save percentage for the next 5 years after this. Like, we know that that's not going to happen. But it's just the stabilizing presence that he has brought, and the age and blah 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 blah, all the things that we'll get into. He's the guy now. It's on him.
I mean, we'll talk about it at length here a little bit, but I love it. I think it's outstanding. I love that they locked it up right away. In my mind, I'm not saying there was anything fishy or done beforehand, but I do believe that they knew exactly what the number was going to be. You do your homework. You do your homework behind the scenes before going into this deal. They knew what it was going to be, what it was going to cost. I do like that they did it right away. It just takes away all the uncertainty and all that kind of stuff. And then, that's why you see that, like you said, they weren't going to do this for 4 months, even though I've seen it before and it's been done again, and it will be done again, where you take a gamble and you hope that it works out, and you're able to sign the guy before July 1st. Now, in this fashion, it's a little different. It's a different position. It's a position where they've been, in my mind, weak at for a bit now. They've done it a certain way for a few years now, ever since Varley, the number 1 starter, left. It's been done more on a, I don't want to use the word Band-Aid, but it's been done on a Band-Aid, 1 year or 2 year, whatever it is, and see what happens. Where now I do believe that it's still done on projection a little bit, but his body of work is a little bit bigger than the guys that, you're going to say Kemper was a little different. Yeah, maybe, but Kemper was going to be more a year or two and then gone once he hit a certain number. But Blackwood, I love the number. I think he's below league average. We'll look at it later, but I do believe that, we give contracts in this league nowadays to guys coming out of their entry level, or not even coming out of their entry level. After 2 years of the entry level, they get those 8-year deals at $8-9 million a year on projection. Now you're talking about a 28-year-old goal. You know what he is. His body of work's big enough. He's had some failures. He's had some success. He is prime right there. And for me, this is going to be looking at a couple years from now. It's probably a bargain around the league. So I like the deal. I love it. And I love that they took care of business today.
I think there's a couple of different angles to look at here when it comes to Blackwood. I want to start with this one. AJ, you already mentioned McFarland talking about it. This or something like this always sort of being the plan. The Avs clearly view Blackwood as the guy going forward for a number of reasons. But starting off, it sure sounds like their analytics department sees this guy as a true starter.
Yeah, I mean, I think more than anything, what we've seen from the Avs over the last 12 months is a complete shift in their value of the goaltender position organizationally. We saw what they did in the draft. It was not as simple as, oh, the goalie was just the top guy on our board. I'm sorry, you don't take 3 goaltenders in your first like 5 picks or whatever without it being something that you are prioritizing. We know that they've overhauled some of their goaltending departments and their evaluation processes of goaltenders, which was needed. They hadn't been very good at this position for a while.
Yep.
Their approach of, okay, when they made the deal for Grubauer, they went and got one of the top backups in the NHL that was available that year. He was trying to get a starter deal. Washington was did not have a net for him to be a starter. They got Grubauer. They gave him 3 years. It went pretty well, and did not get him where they wanted. And then he got absolutely paid. They paid out the nose for Darcy Kemper. He won him a cup. And then, with Georgiev, they ran the Grubauer playbook all over again. It ended horribly. And then Colorado said, we're done with this. They just said, we don't want to keep doing this. They've been bleeding assets for years. Every 3 years, you're trading second, third round picks for a goaltender that you hope is going to be a starter. They kind of did the same thing here with Blackwood, and then they doubled down on it, giving him 5 more years after this. But that's the difference here, is that they paid him. They locked him in. It's not, we'll see how the first year goes, and then the second year, and then by year 3, it's decision time again. He's the guy. For the next 5 years, we don't even talk about Mackenzie Blackwood and his contract status. The only thing that we would ever talk about is how much money he's making, how many years left are on that deal. It's just, it is not a position that we're going to continue to obsess over the same way that we have, because now there's an answer. It's not, we don't have a goalie next year. Well, who's going to be the guy? What's the answer? How many Band-Aids can you put on this? This is it. This was the surgery. This was the surgery to supposedly fix the problem for what you could conceive of as the rest of the McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen window for the next 5 years. This is their guy.
I mean,
Matt.
If I can add to it too,
Yeah,
I think what you're going to see as well. That's just me. That's just my thought. And that's what I think. Depending on what the price is going to be, I think you're going to see next Wedgwood that's going to sign a 2-year deal there. And at the end of the day, I understand Nabokov and all that kind of stuff. And he was a older pick in the second round, meaning he was already 20 years old, whatever it was when he was drafted, which kind of speeds up the development. But you got to remember, just look at it with Eustace and everything. Guys need to come over here and play. They need to go play in the American League for years. So for me, I understand this Nabokov might be outstanding. I don't know. I've never seen him play. I've seen highlights here and there. All I know is he's a young European coming into North America, which will take time. It doesn't work that way anymore, like maybe back then. And look no further than a name we're all familiar with, Patrick Waugh, coming in '86 out of juniors and winning after it called a cup the year before as a 19-year-old, just kind of joining the American League Sherbrooke Canadians and winning the Calder Cup. And then the next year plays 30-something games for the Canadians as a 20-year-old and then wins the Stanley Cup. You don't really see that. You saw Brodeur a couple years later, a little bit. Other than that, it's rare you see a 20-year-old come in here, or a 21-year-old, especially a European that's not used to North America, the culture, the rinks, the leagues. So I understand he might be a good goalie in the box. I'm not saying he's not. He clearly is a good goalie if they went and got him on the second round. This guy's a few years away from coming over, and that would be great for him to come down here, go play down the street there in Loveland, and then, for me, you might see this extension there on Wedgwood here coming up soon.
Yeah. The Nabokov aspect of this is, so what? We'll see.
Yeah.
He's 21 years old. Unless he has an Ilya Sorokin entrance into North America, any talk about Ilya Nabokov playing meaningful games for the Avalanche is wildly premature.
Certainly not as a starter. Yeah.
Yeah. Scott Wedgwood is also signed through next season, so Colorado's goaltenders are done.
Sorry, my fault, my bad. I'm like, you might see next July 1st a 1-year extension. Then it's
totally.
Here's 2 years, end of story. Then you got Nabokov in Loveland. If he comes over. So
Right.
you're solid at the NHL level for 2 years without even talking about it, like at length that we've been talking about it for years now. And then you have your goaltender of the future playing in the American League. That's what I meant. So
Yeah,
I
no, I'm with you. It's just that with the Nabokov stuff, as we do, we get a little into the weeds and we start
yeah,
looking at guys as we know what the future holds precisely. And with Nabokov, it's like, look, at this point, I would be happy if they just got a good backup out. If they got Scott Wedgwood out of Ilya Nabokov, it's a great pick.
yeah,
If they get an actual starter out of it, then great. If we're talking
awesome,
about this guy pushing Mackenzie Blackwood for starts by the end of this deal for Blackwood, then
awesome,
everything has gone wonderfully for the
Yeah.
Avalanche.
awesome.
That's we are years away from seriously having that conversation, and so the immediate what about I don't care about the Nabokov thing right now. Whether he comes over next year, 2 years, it doesn't matter. He's an Eagle. He's going to be an Eagle when he gets here. The transition to North America, he's still young. He needs to play games. All
Mhm.
those things need to happen. If he chooses to stay in Russia for 2 more years, it's fine. If he
Yep.
comes over here and he's an Eagle for a couple of years, it's fine. We've already spent more time on Nabokov. I won't shut up about it, but we're good.
Yeah. Nabokov is interesting, but the contract signed by Blackwood and Nabokov is not something I expect to cross paths for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
They're just not super connected to each other. Now, a Wedgwood contract would be a little bit different, but we'll cross that bridge the day it gets signed, if it gets signed.
Yeah.
When it comes to Blackwood, I think one of the most interesting things is this is the exact same contract that was given to Darcy Kemper by, at the time, the Washington Capitals. The Avs obviously opted to pass on Kemper and have now ended up signing Blackwood to fill that same role. Yeah, I get it. Kemper was 32 at the time he signed that deal. Blackwood is 28 right now. Kemper certainly has not been the guy he was in Colorado these last 2 years, though he has rebounded a little bit with LA this year. I guess let me ask you guys, do you have confidence that Blackwood ends up being as good as Kemper was? Or where do you rank these two right now?
Well, I mean, at the time of the acquisition, Darcy Kemper was much better in the NHL than Mackenzie Blackwood ever has been.
Agreed. But my point is, so far it's proven at least somewhat correct by the Avs not to extend him, given the year and a half that he's had since leaving the Avs.
Definitely, like Darcy Kemper was moved out of there because they found better goalies for a more cost-efficient price. It was never really very good for him in Washington. And signing, if the Avs had signed a 32-year-old goaltender to a 5-year deal at this number, I would not be happy.
Mm-hmm.
As it is, he just turned 28. I'm not
Yep.
thrilled about this. I'm not in love with this deal. But talking about getting a goalie's years 30 through 34 is way different than 33 through 38. Like, the Avs are not paying for age 36-year-old Mackenzie Blackwood yet. Like, that's not what this deal does for them. So I'm like, I feel really good about where they are with that deal. With this deal in comparison to the market itself, and like Darcy Kemper, his game has slipped. I think the Avs probably got the last really good year out of him, and then
Yeah.
he's just been like, he's either been fine or not very good since leaving, and that's kind of your risk. With Blackwood, they're putting it all on the table. This is the kind of trade and contract combination that could end up being a defining decision of Chris McFarland's tenure as general manager of the Avalanche. If he gets this right, it's great. If he gets it right, it's a big win for the Avalanche. But if he gets it wrong, it's very wrong, and the work to get out of it and then to move on at that position will be significant.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I love it, and I'm going to stick to it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Cap has gone up over the last couple of years since Kemper was let go. Numbers have changed. The salary cap has gone up. The Avs made decisions after the 2022 seasons. Remember, you had Kadri and the Burakovsky and all those types of deal,
Yeah.
and they kept Val and they kept Manson, and and I think they've realized that their team is a little different. than 2022. I do believe, and I think we all believe in this, that goaltending is a little bit different from then. I think they just needed to be okay in net, as we saw with Kemper. And don't forget, Frankie was a great backup. I do believe they need to be a little bit better than okay, with the team that they have now, the way they're built. But they have an unbelievable core. And I think we talked about it at the trade deadline last year, and I'll talk about it again today. I think Chris McFarland's era or his tenure, you're right with what you just said. I think, but I like people that swing. You know what I mean? If you stand path, you're like, how can you stand path when you have a core like they do? And it's just not right for the core that they have. And I think Chris swings, and he swung the right way in my book and my belief. And I do end up, thinking that this is a great swing, and it's also a great number because of when you look at it, the comparisons around the league. You know what I mean? I do believe that this guy, you just have to look at it. He can be a good goalie on a bad team, and he can be a good goalie on a good team. There's guys over the years, and I think we see it with the numbers that you just talked about, the Grubauers, the Georgievs, once you leave the Avalanche and the good team that they are, it's not that easy, to pick up wins and numbers, and look no further, I mean, than my era. And again, I hope he's not listening because I love the guy. He's a great guy. But you want to see some sick numbers? Just look at David Abishir when Patty Waugh left. Just look at David Abishir, 62 games. You're going to be like, wow, the Avs had a great goal. And no, we all knew that, it wasn't going to be the answer to win, David Abishir. And then he went on to Montreal and was out of the league within 2 years. But what I'm saying is it's kind of comforting if you're a goalie and you play for the Avs, because they have a sick core and they have a sick opportunity of, 5 to 7 years starting 2022 to win it all. And to win many championships. And I do believe that this today shows his core, you know what I mean? Chris's core and Joe and everybody, like, hey, we're in it for the real time here, and we're in it to go get multiple championships. And we all know that it was a major problem, the Avalanche goaltending. And now for me, it's a strength of the position now.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at some of the other goalies around the league, there are only 7 goalies that you could call true starters that are younger than Mackenzie Blackwood in the NHL. When you look at some of his base stats, he ranks top 10 in save percentage in the league right now. When you go and look at some of the advanced statistics, also he's a solid goaltender. There's a lot of reason to believe that Blackwood is a quality goaltender. Yeah. My question is, do you guys think he is the guy with this contract? I mean, obviously he has to be, but do you think it's going to work?
Yeah, I mean, I like him, and I'm not under any kind of any sort of recency bias spell where I think Mackenzie Blackwood is going to be amazing. I don't think that he is an amazing goaltender. I don't think he's a top shelf goaltender. And if he becomes that, then this deal is incredible. I just think he's a solid middle of the road starter, and there's value in having just that and not constantly dancing around at that position. The Avs had been devaluing that position financially and had been investing in the roster in front of him, and then with Georgiev, it went so poorly, and to a lesser extent, Justus Onanen as well. But I just think it went so poorly that the Avs just wanted stability here. They just wanted a guy that they knew what they were getting. They like him in the room. They like his work ethic. They like his attitude, and they believe that he can just be solid and steady. I don't know that he's got the extra gear to be high end, but he's a good goalie, right? He's a fine goaltender. If this crashes and burns, it lights their future on fire. It's a disaster. It's the end of their contention window. You look at what Tristan Jarry struggles in Pittsburgh have done to the end of that. And there's a lot of other things going on in Pittsburgh, but it comes down to your goaltender. If you don't have it, it's the one thing that you absolutely need the most. And Eric, you mentioned Chris McFarland swinging. Last year, they desperately needed a 2C. They went and got Casey Middlestat for Bowen Byram. And I know everybody in the last month thinks Casey Middlestat is terrible all of a sudden, but they took a swing, they gave him a deal, they're working through it, right? And now they're doing this. They did the same thing with Mackenzie Blackwood. Chris McFarland, it might be a deliberate process, and they go through a lot of checks in their front office to make their decisions. But they've identified weaknesses and said, okay, here's what we're valuing. And getting a second line center, getting a starting goaltender, those are important pieces. You're not going deep without those pieces. And McFarland has done what he's had to do to find guys that are available and pay the prices for them. Will it work in terms of landing another Stanley Cup in Colorado? We hope so.
Mhm.
But it's a fair gamble right now. There's a lot of risk in this, but the price,
Well, there you
You
go.
didn't like,
Just
That's
finish
what
AJ's thought. It's fine.
but I think AJ was saying the price that they had to pay. Are you back,
Oh,
AJ? Go.
yeah. No, just the price for it, 5.25. It's just not that bad. It's fine.
No.
I want to talk about that price a little bit more, and then we can probably wrap this thing up. There are decisions that have to get made. Ultimately, you decide to pay a goaltender $5.25 million. There are contracts that need to be handed out at the end of this season, whether that be Mikko Rantanen getting a raise, whether that be what are you doing with Jonathan Drouin, which is more complicated because he hasn't been healthy this year. What are you doing with your bottom pairing of your defense? All of those things are expiring contracts at the end of this year. You also had this goalie conversation either way, but where the Avs were price-wise with their goalie the past 5 years is now gotten a bit more expensive. Will the Avs end up losing pieces elsewhere to navigate the cap? I guess that's the question I'm asking.
Sure. I guess my question would be, would you rather the Avs keep doing what they've been doing, which is using similar caliber of trade pieces, second round, third round picks, and Nikolai Kovalenko? I don't, like a top 9 forward in the NHL. We'll call him a middle 6 forward in the NHL. And what do you want to move those assets out for? What, the next Georgiev, Grubauer type goaltender, and then pay him $3.5 million on a 3-year deal? You want to keep going that road? The difference in their commitment from what they were doing. Okay, their opening night tandem this year was right. It was basically just a shade over $4.2 million for Alexander Georgiev and Justus Annunen. And now their opening night tandem next year of the Woods will be $6.75 million.
Yep.
Like, it's a $2.5 million jump in your expenditure at the goaltending position. That $2.5 million, that's Miles Wood, that's Logan O'Connor, right?
Yep.
Those are important guys to your roster. This isn't the reason that they don't keep Mikko Rantanen if Mikko Rantanen walks. This doesn't do it. It's not like if they didn't sign Mackenzie Blackwood, they would have that 5.25 to give to somebody else. They'd have to get a goaltender. They'd have to do it somewhere on their roster. They would have to spend that money. So with this, you're locked in at a long-term price with a 28-year-old goaltender. Let's just say he's a league average starter. He's getting paid like a league average starter.
That's it.
That's the money that he's making.
That's it.
It's the 17th highest cap hit for a goaltender next season.
And his body of work is way bigger than any one of those kids that come in at 21 years old, or even Casey Middlestat that I love. As you guys know, I love him. But you're going on projection. And you know what? Mackenzie Blackwood's a great fit. It's the perfect fit for the Avalanche. You can sign Rantanen at $30 million a year if you. It doesn't matter if you don't have a goalie. You might as well not sign them. You're not going anywhere. The Avs weren't going anywhere with that goaltending. So either they were staying path or they were freaking going for something that's more stable than they've done the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, and Tiff is showing up a graphic with all the different prices of goaltenders right now, just ranked by salary. And you look on that list, and there are some wins and there are some losses there. Tristan Jarry, Elvis Merzlikins, those deals are not going well. And as a result, those teams are struggling. So there's no Gary Philip Grubauer, John Gibson. Some of these deals do not go well.
You also have guys like Binnington and Demko who have been quality goaltenders across their stretches, though.
Yeah, and you have, Linus Ullmark won a Vezina a couple years ago, and now you're kind of wondering. The top of that food chain is very expensive. Mackenzie Blackwood is not that kind of goaltender.
And
I
I don't, yeah, no one expects him to be,
Right,
certainly.
and at this him signing for this price point says that right now he understands he's not that goaltender. He would not have gotten that on the market. He was going to be the top free agent goaltender this summer. He probably could have pushed it to a 6x6 if he had a really good year in Colorado. How much was it worth for him to take that chance versus getting the money that he got paid today?
Sure.
And he took the security, which
To be on a sick team.
exactly. Yeah.
Be on
Yeah.
a sick team. Sick fit, sick team, sick core. And you know you're going to win for years to come. There's a big difference there.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's what happens when you play 4 games behind Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon. You go, oh, this is nice. I'd like to do this for a few years.
Absolutely.
The funny part is 3 of those games the team didn't really play
They
very
were
well.
not any good.
He was their best player in a handful of those games. He really hasn't had like the standard Avalanche goaltender experience yet where he'll go 2 weeks where he doesn't see more than 25 shots on goal.
He did have a 19-shot game, so he
That's
got
what I'm saying.
the
He got
smallest
one in there.
taste. Yeah.
He got one in there. And honestly, that's his worst game. That was the worst game that he's played with Avs
You're
so
not
far
wrong,
was that game. So the 4 games aspect of this is hilarious to me. Like, it's just a joke.
Yeah, I mean, all that tells
it is
you is
what it
that
is.
when the Avs made this move, they knew this was coming. This was always the
100%.
plan. Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
So
It's not an amazing value on day one, but in year one, you're not going to look at it and go, "Oh, what a steal!"
Yeah.
Unless Blackwood continues the upward trajectory he's currently been on. If he levels off, and this is just who he is, he's the league average goaltender for the remainder of this contract. It's a fair deal. The Avs are getting what they pay for in that sense, and they will not have an all-star, but they'll have a guy that goes on some runs, and it's fine. It's not an expensive deal here.
I have a question for you guys. I've seen this a couple times in the chat and on Twitter and stuff. Do you think signing now has anything to do with if he did play better, he would be looking at a higher contract for free
Sure.
agency market?
Of course. He absolutely, that's what I was saying. He could have pushed it to maybe a 6x6 had he gotten to the open market. He was going to be the best goaltender in the free agent class this year. And had he played well for the Avs, he would have, had he had a good regular season and a strong postseason, not just completely lit his entire summer on fire, just a solid showing, he would have gotten buku bucks in free agency that would have exceeded what he signed for today because the demand would have been there and the supply wouldn't have been. He would have been the best available.
Yep.
So the Avs essentially just jumped to the head of that line by 1, trading for him, and then 2, signing him. They're out of this market. They're done. Now the only thing that we do moving forward is talk about Scott Wedgwood and an extension there, or what the Nabokov is. When does he become a backup? Like this becomes like we're back to min-maxing the goaltender position, not worrying about the top of it.
And you got to remember, players, they have their agents. And, before you sign something like this, obviously when the trade happened, those guys they look at the market. You know exactly who's going to be in need of a goalie this summer. You can put team A, team B, team C. You know exactly what you're going to get. You know exactly what the number, like AJ said, is going to be. And you also know that you don't have a contract and you're going into a high pressure situation, a situation he's never been in. He's never been in that situation where you're with a team and you expect to go win it all, win or bust, right? This is a different mindset for a goaltender. He's well surrounded. He's got Wedgwood with him that gets along with, that he's played with before. It's a dangerous tandem for the oppositions because they feel comfortable, they feel good, they like the fit that they're in. Now, if you're his agent, it's, hey, do you want to sign right now? And this is what you're going to get. Or you can go and play it out and win it all. And like AJ said, play good, play great, and then you might get 6+, whatever it is. Or do you want to feel better and it's going to help you in that situation of a pressure cooker that he's going to enter here coming up in a few months there in the spring? And then if you know you're already signed, some guys can do it. Played with a guy named Yari Curry, played 7 years in a row in 1-year deal, scoring 70 a year. It didn't bother him. But there's some guys that crumble under that pressure and they can't do it. And it's just like a distraction that they don't like. So for him, he chose, hey, how many steaks can I eat? I can only eat so many steaks. And I think he's got pretty lot, beaucoup, you said, stakes on the table right now that he signed for today, that his kids, grandkids can have. And I think he's like, this is what I like. And then same thing. I'm a team guy. He seems to be an unbelievable team guy. And then how does that help the rest of the team? I know you got to sign Rantanen. I know you got to sign some players. And I know that the trade down, everything from years to come, right? A little bit like Makar did with his contract. So I think there's a lot to be said there. I think he is a team guy, and he was like, you know what? That's enough for me. And I'm going to go and I'm going to prove my worth because it is a lot of money. But also, could I have stretched it? Yeah, but I didn't feel like playing that game, and I want to sign now.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clearly cut that the Avs were always trying to get this done relatively quickly with Blackwood. And as both of you said, Blackwood made the security decision here. He got 5 years. He felt comfortable in Colorado after a handful of games and said, let's just lock this up. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a 28-year-old goaltender and you've gone through the path that he has gone, where he was supposed to be the man. He's been built up his whole life to be the man. He failed at it in New Jersey for a handful of reasons. And he was going into the UFA market this summer. Let's just say that this didn't happen, and he never gets traded, and he goes in leaving the Sharks. Like, what boxes are you looking for as a UFA goalie in his prime? You want term, you want the money, and you want to go to a place that you think is going to win. He got traded to a place out of his hands, and he just said, look, am I going to find a more attractive situation for my ability than this? Am I going to find one? I might be able to go into the market. I might be able to get $11 million more. Just saying, going from 5.5 to a 6.6.
Yeah.
If he does that, like, that's not an irrelevant amount of money. But at the same time, like, you get everything that you want in Colorado. You get that security. You're gonna play for a good team. You're gonna be you're gonna play meaningful games. You're not gonna be getting to December every year looking at the spring going, man, I can't wait to play a lot of golf in April.
Yep.
Keep in mind also, a 5-year deal for Blackwood takes him to 33. I guess 34 technically, because it kicks in next year, but I don't know when his birthday is.
December 9th, the day he got traded.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was a birthday trade. I forgot that. Mm-hmm. So he'll turn 34 in the last year of that deal. That is not young by any stretch of the imagination, but not uncommon for goalies to play well into their late 30s. So there probably is, assuming he plays well, another contract at the end of this deal in the NHL for him.
Yeah. Depending on injuries, right? All that stuff.
Yeah, and he plays well. He continues to play well. By the time he turns, he could get a Darcy Kemper-like deal again, if things go well.
We'll see.
Yeah, but for right now, this is it's not. I'm not going to sit here and say on day one I think it's an amazing piece of business, but it is security, it is stability, and which is the thing that they've absolutely needed the most at that position over the last 18 months, and now they're good. They're done. They're done with this.
$2 from Pete in the super chat saying, does this mean anything as far as Landy's status? Obviously, in the immediate, no, it doesn't affect the cap at all this year. This kicks in next year. And it certainly doesn't say anything more than what you can glean from what we know of Landy already, which is the fact that he's still not really practicing with the team. Nothing seems particularly any closer than it did 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 months ago. So the Landy situation remains what it is. The reality of that situation is he's kind of on a clock at this point, or he's probably not going to play this season. But
yeah,
those, in my opinion, are two completely separate things.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, you're going to have to pay for your goaltender next year, no matter what. This doesn't really Landy's money really only becomes a factor in the summer.
Yeah,
because this season, Blackwood is still on the deal that he's on in San Jose, so it doesn't really change any of that. It would have more of an impact on what they might want to do with Mikko down the line, which, again, you don't let players like that walk.
Agree.
So, they'll. I'm of the belief that Mikko Rantanen will be an Av for a really long time, but they might have to make. They're gonna have to make some cuts somewhere. Josh Manson's basically on a 3-month audition to stay in Colorado at this point because he makes too much money for what he's done so far.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are the guys that have to be on the lookout.
I agree.
For what's next for their careers. And
that's the reality of who gets moved in cap casualty situations.
It's Jonathan Duran, it's Ross Colton, it's Josh Manson. Those are the guys you have to look. It's Miles Wood. It's those guys that you have to look out. Not
when you can shave a couple million here, a couple million there. Yeah.
As it happens on every team. It happens on every team.
Okay. Any final thoughts on Blackwood here, and we'll wrap up this emergency pod.
I love the how's that?
Okay.
Happy it's over.
Same.
I love the big
so happy that we don't have to talk about goaltending every day for at least a couple of months.
Yeah, let's go back to talking about second line centers.
Let's go. No, Middlestat will be fine. It's fine.
It'll be fine. Go talk about winning it all. How's that? That's it.
Yeah, I'm down for that. The Avs do have a game tonight, which is very dumb and stupid, where they travel the same day to Utah to play it, and dumb things always happen. But we will be covering that for you. Our pregame show starts at 7 p.m., and then we will have a postgame as well. So be sure to tune in to those right here. And then we'll also have a show tomorrow for an off-day show. So we got plenty more content coming your way. And when the Avs do something else in the next 2 weeks, we'll have another emergency pod. So tune in either way. Like and subscribe here on YouTube. We are out of here for now, but we'll be back in the evening.
We all silly like the mayor.